Here we are, and welcome to a Marvel team-up edition of the FNM Movie Podcast, because today we're going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, also known as Deadpool 3. I got Lily and Becky here. We all saw it in the last week or so. I took my kids to see it. It was the first R-rated movie they've seen in the theater.
How many F words did they say? How many F bombs?
Like
135.
I
don't know. All you need is 2 for it to be R-rated. So it's like, who cares?
But it'd be easier to count the words that aren't F bombs in that movie.
Fair enough. And
it even made me uncomfortable. And I'm the queen of F bombs. Yeah, a little bit. I think it was the Hugh Jackman of it all. Like the Wolverine swearing that much made me uncomfortable.
Didn't you see Logan?
No, I don't have time for that, Shai, please.
Okay, so in Logan he says F-bombs, which is part of what.
Well, I'll get into my whole thing in a second. You go.
Okay, well, I mean, like, I am dying to hear how you even understood what was happening in this movie.
The best is that I had Vlad on one side and Jose on the other. So
you were just on
I was
island.
an entire human being away from Becky, who's 6'4" and takes up a lot of space in a theater seat. So I like.
No, he's so skinny. It's like he's not even there.
We were having
his
knee cuddles the entire time, and I got to the point where
next to him on a plane. Try sitting next to him.
I stopped apologizing. I was like, you know what? You're touching my knee. I was like, enough. I'm not touching your knee. Like there was so much knee touching between me and Vlad. Also, I was like, seriously, Becky, you couldn't have Vlad sit on the left and like you in between me and Vlad. And she's like, I need to be in the center of the aisle. Like, Mom. I was like,
I was in the perfect
you're not even 40.
Not giving
you can be centered to one seat over. But no, I had to sit next to Vlad, who's just
it was
like,
more the point of I got there first and I wasn't giving up the best seat in the house because other people were
Jose, who knew less than me, and Vlad, who knew less than Jose. So like it was the three of them.
Vlad speaks English, so he could at least follow the
Three Stooges there, and I bet on Vlad to ask questions, and he just kept looking at me like, mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't know, is this a movie or is this a trailer? He was he was no help at all, and I was like, just ask Becky these questions. I was like, ask Becky this. So,
but he was having so much fun. Anytime you turn to him and you're like, Vlad, this doesn't make any sense, he'd be like, shh. The good part.
Like, he's like, it's not supposed to make sense.
Like, I'm having fun. Be quiet.
He's like, I'm watching a movie with no plot. It's exciting.
So
it's experimental film.
It did feel a bit like an experimental film, right?
Mm-hmm.
I asked my elder daughter for her rankings. She ranked the second one first. She ranked this one second, and she ranked the first one third.
That's not true.
Because
that's incorrect.
But here's the thing.
It's incorrect.
That's the incorrect order. The first one is first. The first one is first.
Yes, agreed.
But she made a great case as to what. But she made a great case as to why the first one isn't first. The bad guy and the final climax of the first one is just not memorable. He's fighting.
I don't remember the bad guy from the second one either.
Oh, the Professor X is like womb buddy or like his twin.
In the third one, it's his twin. In the second one, is it the kid?
It's also Tom Wamsgams in the third one.
Ooh.
Well, he's not a villain. That's ridiculous. Wait, did I see the second one? Remind me. What's that one about?
We watched it together in Tenerife. It's the one where Josh Brolin. Yeah. It's the one where Josh Brolin plays Cable and he time travels.
They can't keep putting Josh Brolin in these movies, and I'm sure that's what I said then. They can't. They just can't. Doesn't he play another bad guy in these movies?
Yeah, but they were owned by different studios at the time. There was no expectation.
Look, if you needed to know, like, gossip about the entertainment industry, this is a movie to watch. I had no idea about the mergers. Like,
it has all the tea.
Yeah, like Disney owns everything now, right? That's just
wait. Hold on. Let's just clarify. We liked it. We had a lot of fun.
We? Well, I thought I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun, but I don't know what I had a lot of fun. But the violence was. I had to keep reminding myself, like, no, this is the bit. Because the violence was like so extreme and there was so much of it. I'd be like, no, Becky, this is it took me out of it because there was so much of it, but I kept on reminding myself, this is the bit, this is what's funny, this is the cartoon element of it, this is Deadpool, this is what makes Deadpool so different. But it's
I thought it was extremely tame compared to the first one and the second one.
I don't remember.
That bus scene was
the bus scene.
What
was there? A bus?
Scene?
Did I make a?
What? But they're killing fake. They're killing Deadpools from other universes.
Oh, I didn't think that was bad. I thought the opening scene was so gross.
That the credits, that, like, the Deadpools are being played, but like the Deadpools are being played by like his actual like wife and kids and all these like friends, and there's like little kid Deadpools, and there's
they're invincible.
Well, they just regenerate.
There's only one Deadpool that can't. There's only one Deadpool that can't regenerate.
I turned to Vlad at the beginning, and I was like, "Sorry, what are his powers?" And Vlad was like, "I don't know." And then I was like, ask Becky. And then Vlad comes back to me and he's like, "Oh, he's the same as Wolverine." And I was like, "Okay, now this movie will make a little bit more sense." You really need to know that going into it. And
he has the same he has the same regenerative power as Wolverine, but
they were both experimented on by the army in different ways.
In different ways. His was jump started by the guy in the first Deadpool in order to cure his cancer, and so he made him. He activated his mutant gene of healing, which cured his cancer and made him into the superhuman version.
How
of Deadpool.
Does he melt?
He was. So in Deadpool 1, in order to jumpstart his mutant factor, they torture the mutants, and what they do is they put him in this tank that burns his skin. Okay. I don't know if that's Deadpool's real origin story or not, but
because in another movie he's the bad guy and his mouth is
that's the one they always make fun of. That doesn't exist anymore.
That's in X-Men. That's in the X-Men, and he does fight Wolverine.
And I just. Yeah, he does fight Wolverine. He's the bad guy in that, isn't he? But also
they're on the same special forces team, and then he gets turned into like this sort of different version of Deadpool.
Okay, just a quick question. I have so many things. Just a quick question. Okay. The only reason Blade is in it is because they're friends from Blade 3. Blade is not in.
No. You're jumping.
Okay, we'll just go
ahead.
Okay, fine. Sorry. We'll do a whole cameo thing because I have so many questions. All right.
Let's just start at the top and talk about. So
the
Becky,
story
you liked
is
it.
the
Lily,
worst.
You're confused.
I'm confused. I had a lot of fun. The jokes are hilarious. Like the jokes are very, very smart and very, very funny.
You know what?
This is the worst plot of any movie I've ever seen ever. You know what? They made no effort for the story.
I'm already confused.
Like I don't care what Ryan Reynolds says about the script. Like no, it makes no sense. Why do those Deadpools come back? Where do they go after? Why are they trying to stop the subway thing? Why are they trying to stop?
Why are they after him?
Why are they after him? That makes no sense. Also, where did they all come from? It makes no sense. Okay, fine, but then why are they after?
I thought weren't they all in the void? They said there's a lot of Deadpools in the void.
Sure. Why did they come after him though? Why?
Because they work for Tom Wamskamps, I think. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mr.
that part
Darcy?
made no sense. And then where do they go after? How does he get rid of them?
I don't think anybody asked.
They don't resolve that.
They must go back to the void.
But does it?
Oh, because they see Rob Delaney, and they get distracted.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. Fine, whatever. It was a lot of fun. I would see it once. I think it's a lot of fun. It was fun to see it with people laughing.
You know why I would see it again?
No one in Spain understood the jokes.
Oh, can you please give me some credit for being the loudest cackler in that movie? I laughed my face off from beginning to end, and I'm telling you, it is dead silent in the Spanish theater. You could hear a pin drop. And then Ryan Reynolds says the word Saskatoon, and I am screaming with laughter. Like screaming. And the best is that we're with a Spaniard and Americans,
and the other Canadian, I don't understand his Russian humor. I don't know what exactly he laughed at. But the two Americans that are with us are cousins. I don't think they got the Canadian joke. So every time beautiful Ryan Reynolds just says, sorry. Becky and I are losing it. And the Canadian joke.
Funny.
But in general, I found the humor, like I laughed so hard at it. And I will say in that sense, the script, matched with Ryan Reynolds with Wolverine as the straight man it's so well done. Like, I do give that. That's got a lot of chemistry there, and I laughed so hard.
The entire movie, like a comic book, was a vehicle to put those two in the same place. And often in comic books, when you do multiverse team ups, especially if you do it across brands, but in this case, they did it across sort of a softer crossover because technically Wolverine and Deadpool are in the same universe in the comics. But they had to do a multiverse gag or gimmick to get the two of them in the same place. Even the entire part where he visits all these other versions of Wolverine from the comics and the animated and
are those
and
all real other versions?
Oh yeah, those are all most
the very
of the one
short
where he's
one?
on the big cross, the very short one. They're all.
What's the very short one from?
I'm pretty sure in the X-Men cartoon, he's drawn as very short because he's technically
I was like,
supposed
I think this is like rude to little people.
No, he's supposed to. He's supposed to be pretty short. I'm pretty sure. Wolverine, and they just make him taller because it's Hugh Jackman, but he's short. The character,
Gotcha.
And then the fight with the Hulk, and then where he's on that big X. That's from where he's on the X on the pile of skulls. That's from I think I would go back and watch
with you to like Easter egg the shit out of the movie for me because there's too many things too fast.
The movie.
But were all of these But what I understand is I feel like they were referencing DC characters. So is it Marvel or DC or X-Men? Like there were characters from all the worlds, right?
Oh my God, that's
just
the aggravation that I have that you're saying.
No one, I know there's no one from DC.
They're all Marvel. There was no DC references.
No, there were DC references probably, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember that one. But I know in the second one. In Deadpool 2, when he meets Josh Brolin's character and he says, when he meets Cable and he says, "You're so dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?" It's funny because DC made all their movies very dark.
Okay, but I will say Miri has this encyclopedia book of all of the Marvel characters. So I actually knew who a lot of the obscure ones were because we used to read that book a lot. So like I know who Juggernaut is because that was a page that we read in her like Marvel encyclopedia. So we also want to say,
Juggernaut is in his third movie at this point. He was in X-Men Last Stand, played by Vinnie Jones.
No one saw that movie.
And then he was in Deadpool 2. He's the one who tears Deadpool in half in that. He's the big part of the. And then now he was there for a third time, which they made a joke about when he said, "Oh, you're the Juggernaut this time," because it's the third different actor to play him.
So
and he's totally different size in the last one.
You really should see Deadpool 1 and 2 and Logan to see this. And all of the Avenger movies? Ugh, no. You don't need to see one Captain America and you're fine, right?
All right. So just to recap the plot.
Try. I dare you.
Deadpool, at the end of Deadpool 2, Deadpool goes back in time and essentially undoes the events of that whole movie because he saves Vanessa's life. This movie deals with the multiverse consequences of that, which I thought was actually pretty smart, which is that he wasn't able to save his relationship with Vanessa, even though he saved her life at the time. And
why couldn't he save his relationship with her?
Because he only thinks of himself. They explained that in the beginning.
Oh, because the Avengers don't do it because they need it. They do it because other people.
And he only does it because he needs
it. And then the Wolverine in his timeline eventually dies. That's the old man Logan. So they're from the same timeline. And that's where you see him digging up the body at the beginning, which I thought was one of the funniest, most brilliant things I've seen in a movie in a long time.
The credit scene is very graphic.
It was hilarious. But it was also... there were a number of times in this movie where I was actually surprised, and the surprise made me laugh. And for me, who has watched all this stuff, I was very impressed. And I was jealous of how much, like jealous in a good way of like, how much Ryan Reynolds could make me laugh by doing things I didn't expect or making references. On the other hand, this was like, so anyway, and then for some reason, he has to bring a Wolverine into his own timeline to save it.
But wait,
Again,
back up a second.
Plot.
At what point does he like start working at the car dealership? And why does they show you Earth 616 and then they show you Earth 1005?
Okay. So if you had been paying attention.
In which movie?
To any of the Marvel.
Or which
any
show?
Of them?
Well,
no.
The Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is where they actually name this for the first time. But in general, in the Marvel comics, the main timeline is Earth 616. Now, what's confusing to me is...
That's like the regular Avengers movie is Earth 616.
Well, what's weird is that in the comics, Earth 616 is the main timeline. But in the movies, which is a different version of the Marvel Universe, the main timeline is also Earth 616. So in the purposes of the movies, the main timeline with the Avengers, as Becky described, the sacred timeline, as they called it, is Earth 616. That's kind of like the main one.
The snap.
That's the one that gets the blip. And ever since they did the blip...
or post-blip in this?
No, we're post-blip. We're post-blip.
Okay.
But Deadpool and Wolverine in this, I believe, are not in Earth 616 at the beginning. They end up in Earth 616.
What?
I don't know. Anyways, the point is that
when he's doing those interviews, I don't get why they tell us.
Also, the X-Men also have a multiverse.
Well, okay, you keep acting like the X-Men are different. The X-Men, the only thing...
When else did they appear?
Are together? They're friends?
They're all in the same universe.
In the comic books.
Oh, Jesus.
They're in the same universe.
So sorry for our listeners, but
so in the comic books, in the comics, we have Avengers that fight Thanos. And then we also have like their headquarters, Stark Towers in Manhattan. And then we have the X-Men who are like in Westchester?
Yeah.
And they have Xavier's school for business.
Becky is like 70% right, which is so aggravating because she's like knows the address of Charles Xavier's school, but doesn't know that the X-Men in the comics. But then what happened is that over the years of making movies, before they ever envisioned making these movies, Marvel sold different characters to different studios. So Blade, which is a Marvel Universe character, whose movies precede all of the X-Men movies.
Right.
Blade. And Blade was sold to one studio. I don't know who it was sold to.
Obviously, it wasn't Disney because they couldn't use any of the Blade footage in the remembering reel at the end.
Oh, yeah. And then Spider-Man was sold to Sony. Right. X-Men and the associated characters were sold to 20th Century Fox or whatever they were. And then Disney actually got like what were thought of at the time were kind of the crappy leftovers, because the Avengers, while they're historically a really, important group, the Avengers at the time were seen as just like the second-rate DC characters. Like, why would you have Captain America when you can have Superman? Why would you have Tony Stark when you can have Batman, right?
What you're saying is originally all of these properties were part of Marvel.
No, and they still are.
On paper. In
the comic books.
Yes, in the comic books. So a lot of the
now Disney bought everyone to get their characters back.
So in the actual Thanos Infinity War story, you have X-Men characters, you have Spider-Man, you have...
I'm going to say the world is in bad shape for the amount of superheroes that there are. If you've got Blade, and there's also vampires then, supposedly.
And in the 1980s, there's this comic series.
Oh, yeah. Where are all these vampires roaming around? Or does he not fight vampires?
No, he does. No, it's just he lives in the Marvel Universe, but he's part of there's a Marvel... Look, the Marvel Universe has different corners of it. The X-Men is the whole mutant conversation, but the X-Men are also sometimes going to space and time traveling, and they have a big time travel component to the X-Men because they're always worrying about this future where they're going to be exterminated. Sorry, they're always trying to prevent that. Then you have the Avengers, which also has space and mystical stuff like that, but in general, it's they're fighting these big otherworldly threats like Thanos, and then we haven't even talked about the Fantastic Four, which is
I can't. Who are
where do they
obviously
live?
Disney owns them, and they're making a new movie.
They were owned, I believe, also by Fox. They were, I believe, also owned by Fox. And the Fantastic Four is another main corner, and they fight Galactus and Doctor Doom. But Galactus and Doctor Doom and all those guys have also fought the Avengers.
And how many? There's been 2 Fantastic Four movies already?
There's been there's been 3 iterations of the Fantastic Four and 4 movies. There's like a cheesy old, I think Roger Corman, not our father, but Roger Corman, the director, made one version of it.
Okay, but I feel like we're getting off track because no one will ever be able to unpack this mystery.
Hold on.
That you're trying to.
And then you have the Avengers, and then you have like these sort of like darker characters, Blade, Ghost Rider, Morbius, who are in the Marvel Universe, but they tend to be dealing with things that are in the occult, more so in the occult world. Doctor Strange sometimes sort of fits in there as well, as opposed to, and magic, as opposed to like a giant intergalactic threat, or in the case of the mutants.
Okay, but I feel like right now we're getting an encyclopedic explanation of the universes, and I really want to talk about Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Oh, hold on.
Channing Tatum as Gambit.
This is important. This is the basis for this. This is, okay, so what they did in this movie is they are inching forward to the X-Men now being in Earth 616 with the Avengers and all of that, and what they did in that and what they used the Void for and the Time Variance Authority was like a very easy way to let's throw in whichever things from any of the ones that Disney owns
right. now. Right, and then they were like, oh, we got one of those like magic rings to open the portals.
Does Professor X actually have a twin, an evil twin?
Cassandra Nova, and I don't know if it's in Earth 616 or if it's in one of the other variations, is a villain that is Professor X's super powerful secret separate twin.
So are they saying that, okay, are they saying, hold on, the timeline that's dying because Logan dies, that's not the sacred timeline. He's not the anchor being of the sacred timeline.
No, they all of a sudden they call it Earth 1005 or something, but I don't know how they got there.
That's the one that we're saying Deadpool lives in that one with that Logan, and Logan was that anchor being of that multiverse timeline.
But then you're saying that the Logan that dies in the movie is not in 616.
I don't know. But the point is at the end, they're all in the one with the rest of the Marvel universe, as far as I understand.
In the sacred timeline, in the main timeline.
Exactly. So that like the whole thing was a device for, I think of this movie as, imagine if you had an Oreo.
No, they're not, because he goes back to his friends and they're like drinking beers with Logan at the table with all his buddies who live in the 1005 timeline that's dying because they lost Logan.
Look, I don't know. Not the point. The point is that the movie is.
Oh no, she's right. Vehicle. She's right. He goes to 616. He must go to 616 to dig up Logan, who can't be dug up, who's dead, to bring him back. So then he has to go search for other Logans. He's not in the 616 timeline. He's in the 1005, and he likes that timeline because he's got all his friends there and his ex-girlfriend, and he's happy, even though he's a car salesman.
There are some things that don't make sense.
No.
I think what happens.
I just want to know that the part of the podcast where I was explaining things is more important than us just not knowing how this works.
I understand it. He's in 1005, which is dying because that's where Logan is, and Logan's dying. But the ATV group, I think that's what they're called. TVA. They're in 616. So he has to bring Logan to the TVA, who live in 616, and be like, look, I have a new anchor being.
I don't know.
And that's why all that stuff unfolds there.
The point is that somehow he becomes a car salesman instead of being Deadpool.
No, that's when.
Can we talk about?
No.
Well, so the point that I've been trying to make is that I think of this movie like an Oreo that is mostly stuffing.
Yes.
There's like a thin layer of cooking on the outside and the rest is stuffing. And so it's like enjoyable, but in the end, it's just this meta experience, which is kind of what Deadpool is. Deadpool is not really a super consequential character in Marvel. He's beloved, but he finally saved the universe. In his other two movies, he doesn't really save the universe.
So what I was saying to Vlad is that Vlad was saying, it's so meta, you're constantly being pulled out of the story. And I was like, well, you have to think of it differently. You have to think of it differently. That is the experience of watching it, because you're watching it on the really, really big, broad level of like pop culture as like an entirety. Then from like the Marvel universe, then from like this movie itself, because he's like breaking the fourth wall by talking to you, but then talking to you about other characters in the Marvel universe, but then also talking to you about like the actors that play them in real life. So it's like many layers.
Well, he refers he calls him Hugh at one point.
Right, Hugh. He references his own wife in a backhanded way.
He references the Music Man. He references mom going to see a play in New York.
And also when they're fighting in the minivan, the first car song that comes on is from Greatest Showman.
Oh, that's very funny.
So I'm saying is that like what I'm saying to Vlad, I was like, you're staying in the movie, staying in the moment is watching it on all of these levels at once.
That scene made no sense.
And it's experiential.
But that is Deadpool. But that is what made Deadpool go from a cool side character to his own character, was this meta experience with Deadpool and the audience.
But they were just like, okay, we need at least 3 fight scenes between Deadpool and Wolverine, and one of them should be in a car, and they put it in that car.
The fight scenes were also awesome. See, this is what I found interesting about this movie, is that the lack of stakes made the violence really non-existent to me, because I knew neither of them could die. It was just funny. Like, they were giving comic book fans, there's so many fan drawings and actual drawings in the comics of Deadpool and Wolverine being able to do horrific things to each other just because they'll always regenerate. And so they're like, we got to do this not once, but we got to do this 3 times. And so they did that. And that was fun. And they delivered on it. Like, this movie was the definition of fan service in the best way possible, but it's a character that talks to the audience. So it should be that. Okay. So now let's talk about cameos. Cameo number 1, and what I thought was maybe one of the most brilliant cameos of the entire movie, was Chris Evans.
I was going to say it has to be Chris Evans, because that's the most brilliant one.
Because
it was brilliant. It was incredible.
It's the only thing I feel bad for people who are going to catch up to the movie later is that that's already been spoiled online. I keep seeing it everywhere. So it was amazing.
That was amazing.
When he picks up the hood and he's not Captain America.
Do you get the joke, though, that he already played Johnny Storm with
Jessica Alba.
That's the Jessica Alba one.
Yeah, Jessica in the Fantastic Four.
And also, he couldn't be Captain America, right? Because that guy's dead?
No, well, there could be a different multiverse version of Captain America.
Oh, okay. But they didn't have him be Captain America on purpose.
Well, I mean, they didn't.
No, that's
okay. I mean, he read the script.
So here's what
they didn't.
It's not
funnier
a real multiverse version of Chris Evans.
So what I think,
I'm just saying it's funnier that it's not Captain America.
Yeah.
Yes, but what's also great is this idea that he's giving attention and paying homage to the like less famous or popular characters or iterations.
They're making a new movie, so they're smart because they're
because they're making a new movie, but also bringing in Elektra, doing the thing with Gambit, right? That's the other guy.
Well, Gambit was never made into a movie, but they were supposed to do a Channing Tatum movie.
But you get the feeling that it's it's Ryan Reynolds being like, which friends do I love and which characters would be so much fun to bring in,
But also who they can afford, because like a lot of these they spend so much money. I think like when one of the best things it was when Chris Evans, when the bad guy Nova kills Chris Evans, and Ryan Reynolds was like, "Oh, thank God, we can't afford to keep him in this movie longer."
Well, I also think that
budget does not hold him being
honored
in
the MCU by not bringing him back as Captain America, because the two deaths that are really important for the MCU to kind of hold together is Iron Man and Captain America. Taking those two out, those prime versions of them out, like if they undo those, they undo, the first 10 years of what they did with the MCU. And so by bringing him back as Johnny Storm, it was hilarious. Now, the other cameos, you have X-23, who is Wolverine's clone.
Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine's clone.
How could it be a clone? She's a girl.
She was made from his DNA or something like that.
Okay, like his daughter.
I think so. I don't know. Anyways, she's like Wolverine. She saves her. That's what the plot of Logan is. It's
right.
him.
I got that much.
Does he die of old age? What happens?
Over time, the healing factor wears off. It stops working as well
because he's been alive for 200 years already.
Because even though they're invulnerable, they're not immortal. And so at that point, he has this fight with, I want to say it's like a younger version of himself or something, or a clone of himself. Maybe that's the clone. Anyways, he has a fight with something that impales him on a stick, and he actually dies that time. You have Blade, which is 100% in the Marvel Universe, but I want to add you another layer of intrigue. If you Google, there's an article that I've read many times where Patton Oswalt talking about, I believe it's Patton Oswalt talking about being on the set of Blade 3 and how Wesley Snipes was extremely hostile to the rest of the cast on that movie. And I think it's Wesley Snipes or other people have talked about how he was very resentful of Ryan Reynolds. That Ryan Reynolds' character, right? Because Blade Trinity has three main characters, and Ryan Reynolds steals the movie. It's almost like his audition to play Deadpool, because I believe Blade 3 comes out before Deadpool. So his Hannibal Caine is a like a proto Deadpool, and probably how he got the Wolverine origins Deadpool type of thing. And I think even more than honoring Wesley Snipes, who probably in a lot of ways by Ryan Reynolds being in that movie, it made him into an action star, or it made people believe he could be an action star. I have to believe it's some sort of healing thing where he's now put Wesley Snipes back in
a money thing,
a major movie. I don't know if it's a money thing, but hey, I'm sharing my spotlight with you. And he shared the spotlight with him. There was no goofy, what I loved, one of the best, spoiler here, they didn't murder all of them at the end of the movie. They kind of left them alive in the void. And they didn't, at no point I was waiting for them to him to dishonor those other three characters the way he did Chris Evans in a funny way. But they didn't. Elektra, even Gambit, they did a hilarious rendition of Gambit because they did the exact 1990s cartoon version of Gambit with the super heavy New Orleans accent. Yeah.
He's from the accent. He's like, who's your dialect?
But Blade, Elektra and Gambit, these are awesome characters, and those are all legitimate great actors. And I would watch those three in a movie now.
Oh my God.
Now, there is another Blade movie that's been made or being made with Mahershala Ali.
On the note, this is what I wanted to say. On the note of, I felt like he was honoring these characters, is because as goofy as they made Gambit, when there's that big fight scene and he's throwing his cards and then all those guys blow up in sync with each other, you're like, that's so cool. They make his moves still look really cool, even though it's in a very kitschy character.
Gambit's powers are awesome.
Right. And Elektra is such a great fighter.
But how are the cards mutant?
No. Gambit's power is that he can charge inanimate objects and make them into explosives or like supercharged objects. So he carries a deck of cards because it's an easy thing for him to hold. And then he's got 52 explosives that he can throw anytime.
Gotcha. Plus, he's also a Louisiana gambler.
Gambler type. Exactly. And what's funny
played him in the X-Men. He was a good character in the X-Men.
In Wolverine Origins, which is the same one that introduces Deadpool. It was Taylor Kitsch.
That's who it was. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really love that. And now the thing is that Mahershala Ali is going to play Deadpool, Blade in the new Blade movie. And I see Wesley Snipes playing Blade, and I'm like, look, obviously Mahershala Ali won an Oscar and is amazing.
Yeah, but Wesley Snipes could still play him. He did his signature spinning back kick. Like the Wesley Snipes.
He looked amazing in that movie.
Yeah, he did his signature spinning back kick, and Jose jumped out of his seat. He was like, that's like what Wesley Snipes is famous for.
It did make me want to go back and watch all the Blade movies, because that trilogy, that's one of the best comic book trilogies ever made.
That first movie, like, blew people away.
Every installment.
Totally
and he's
different.
an expert martial artist, and he's still good.
Every installment of the movie is good, and each movie is wildly different. You have the first movie is like, a dark vampire hunter kind of movie. The second one is like this crazy monster epic directed by Guillermo del Toro, right? Oscar winner Guillermo del Toro. And then the third one is this great kind of buddy story, where they fight the ultimate vampire in Dracula in that one. And like, I love that trilogy. They're so good. And I don't know if they'll ever put Wesley Snipes in a Blade movie again, but I'd love to see Wesley Snipes as Blade over and over and over again.
It shows you also that Ryan Reynolds at the helm, like he seems like he's a good person, and he's just having fun with his colleagues. Like, that's the impression, because if he got Wesley Snipes to come back as Blade, unless it was about the money for Wesley Snipes.
But Ryan Reynolds has to say, I want that. He doesn't need to get Wesley Snipes as Blade.
Right.
He could have got Kelsey Grammer as Beast or whatever. Like, he could have got some other,
rando callback. But it is his start as an action hero.
Yeah. So I think it was a great thing. Also, Ryan Reynolds loves the comics, and you can see it. There's no...
Yeah.
Like Hugh Jackman, who knows? But Ryan Reynolds loves the comics so much.
Hugh Jackman loves Wolverine, for sure.
Yeah, that's his guy.
I love how they kept
until
joking. You're 90.
It's crazy
until you're 90.
If you go back and look at that first X-Men movie with
how young
Hugh Jackman is, he's so
X-Men?
young.
What are the X-Men? It's X-Men.
X-Men.
No, you said X-Men.
But he is an X-Man.
X-Men.
That was a bit confusing when he's like, I'm an X-Men again. And you're like, I think you're an X-Man. They are the X-Men together. There's like a weird grammar thing going on.
X-Men.
What did you think?
I just said it quickly. X-Men. X-Men.
What did I think of the joke where they're like, all these people have been killed, and Daredevil, and Elektra's like, meh.
But that, like,
that's one of the best jokes in the movie.
Because since then, Charlie Cox has played two iconic versions of Daredevil. So you've got to sit there and remember, on TV, but you've got to sit there. You have to remember
that it's Ben Affleck.
That it's Ben Affleck. And
when you see Gardner, everybody remembers Ben Affleck, I think.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, is that what the enjoyable experience is not watching it for the plot. It's watching it for all the meta references. That's the experience.
The movie is a meta fan experience.
And it is an experience. And in that sense, I did like it. It was lots of fun. And I would watch it again, because there are so many references. You don't catch all of them. And every time you watch one of the superhero movies, go back, rewatch Deadpool 3, and you'll catch like 20 more. References.
One of the funniest things in the movie was when they start referencing the Loki TV show monster, which I remember from that one episode.
He's like season 1, episode 5, episode 15, whatever it was. Yeah,
because I find that part of Marvel, the Time Variance Authority, both enjoyable, but it ruins the stakes of everything. And
there's always could be another thing.
There's just always a fix. I mean, and that's the way comic books work, but they've now, hopefully, with the introduction of this Doctor Doom thing, which I wanted to segue into, because on the heels of Marvel, of Deadpool Wolverine, you have Doctor Doom being played by Robert Downey Jr., which implies either that he's playing a totally new character or that he's playing an alternate version of Tony Stark that went bad and became
or they've
Dr.
run
Doom.
out of actors. It's enough.
But wait, let me say this.
You're also missing a cameo that I'm upset both of you haven't mentioned.
Maybe I didn't mention it, but no. I mean, I don't.
Before we move on from cameos, there's one that was incredible.
Okay, because I want to talk about Robert Downey Jr.
I know, but before you...
Okay, say.
Cavill Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. That was amazing.
Like they just have in the alternative version, he's played by Henry Cavill.
This is very funny.
Who was not renewed for Superman.
So one of the things that I think is interesting...
left The Witcher. I mean, I can't. I'm so upset about that whole thing still.
So, you know what? If I understood what was happening in The Witcher more, I would... Like, I was upset at the time, but I couldn't tell you where we left off. So it's hard for me to be sad about what's coming in that show. So, okay, we have Robert Downey Jr. coming back now to play truly one of the ultimate villains. I mean, Dr. Doom is an amazing villain. He's a super genius. He's a master of technology. He's like total megalomaniac. He's an inventor in a lot of ways. You could look at him as a shadow version of Tony Stark. So first question is, what do you guys prefer? Do you prefer just Robert Downey Jr.'s back and he's playing a different character? And he's going to play him totally different. Maybe he's going to play him like he's going to play him as
Josh
British.
Brolin did.
Yeah, but like play him different, like British, like make him, like Charlie Chaplin or like his Charlie Chaplin or his Sherlock Holmes, or do you want him to be like keep chewing on this multiverse thing and have him be?
Yes, I'd rather
alternate?
and this brings a great point. I'd rather him be a Tony Stark gone wrong in another universe because I think that just works better. And I think had they leaned in more I think it would have been even a layer funnier had they leaned in a little bit more that this was the worst Wolverine or that this is a different Wolverine. Now, the whole, it just copies the wrong Peter Parker or the other Peter Parker that did it perfection in Spider-Verse. With the
he seemed
belly,
like a great Wolverine. Like he was in super good shape. He was still ultimately a very nice guy.
Yeah, I feel like they needed to have.
I mean, when they pull his shirt off, I felt mom schwitzing, and she wasn't even in the theater.
Please,
I literally thought to myself, I was like, "Is that really his body?"
That's what Jose asked me.
I think it has to be because that's part of the bit is that he always has to work out to do the part. Which, by the way, give the guy a suit so he doesn't have to work out anymore. Poor guy.
I know. And I think that's a bit that they keep taking his shirt off. But I was missing a little bit more playing on him being the worst Wolverine. They kind of lost it in that because people, I guess, just want to see Wolverine and Deadpool. Well,
they call him the worst Wolverine because he's a Wolverine that's a failure, not because he's truly the worst Wolverine.
The way that Peter Parker has let himself go. And he's...
Yeah, I mean, he's the Wolverine his big failure is that he kept running away from the team, which is what happens with Wolverine all the time in the comics, but him not being there got everybody killed, and then he went out. And they didn't overdo this, and maybe there's a cut scene, or maybe they just decided not to shoot it for whatever reason because of how violent it would be. But there is this like primal version of Wolverine that's just a straight up murderer. And I guess they talked about it, but they didn't show him doing it. But what's interesting is that they did do that with Hawkeye in Avengers Endgame when they showed him as the Ronin.
No one saw that, so they wouldn't know. Oops.
Really, most people have seen Avengers Endgame. Literally, most people.
You've seen it.
I think
I've never seen it.
If you surveyed the world, most people have seen Avengers Endgame based on how much money it made. So now Robert Downey Jr. coming back. You said this point of are they running out of actors? I think what Deadpool and Wolverine reminded me is that for these movies, not for every movie, but for these movies, clearly there are certain actors. Not because of buzz or popularity, but literally because of their charisma.
To bank on somebody else, no.
But that like you need threads pulling them together of people who
Becky saying like Kamala Harris is the candidate because she has like name recognition. People
name
know who she
recognition.
is. Like,
Are we
everybody knows
But
that Downey
Robert Downey
Jr. is Tony
Jr.
Stark, and they're sad that he's
Here's
dead.
what
so
I-
now they
He
get
here's
made
what I
Tony
say.
Stark. He made Tony Stark. Tony
so
Stark
now
didn't make
it's just
him.
a bankable actor to have that they know they can rely on for like a $200 million movie.
So here's what I say.
There's a lot of great actors with charisma that could get a shot.
Here's the thing. He's good. He's going to do great. He's not going to not be great. Of course, he'll do great. He's a great actor. He'll do great. We'll love it. I think the shame in it is that it's not giving us an opportunity to have someone new to get excited
Well, it was
about.
supposed to be Majors, and then
Well, it's
Majors,
supposed to be Majors, and that look how much. But here's the thing: when you look at the context
isn't he a bad
of the
guy in another Marvel movie?
No, but if you look at
he's actually
okay. So the new big bad guy for the Marvel universe
fits in this.
The new big bad guy for the Marvel universe was supposed to be Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, who's now been ousted from all the movies.
Isn't it amazing how Becky just like snaps into being like an expert on Marvel movies?
And it's rude. She didn't sit next to me during the movie. Rude.
I'm so lost now that he's been ousted from the Marvel universe, they rewrote the movie that he was supposed to be the big bad guy for Doctor Doom. And the reality is, with so much at stake, with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, and truthfully, a lot of people's jobs after the big, basically, implosion of the Jonathan Majors issue.
Although he was acquitted, wasn't he?
No, he was convicted. The day he was convicted or the day after they fired him. Yes, that's why they hadn't done anything. And he went to his, like, whatever, his case went to trial. And then, like, the day he was convicted, it was like the day or the next day
he was convicted.
They fired him. They waited.
But Kang is the bad guy of Ant-Man.
And he's the bad guy in Loki. He's the one who remains. The variants of Kang.
You keep saying Quantumania to me, Becky, as if that means anything. She keeps.
I watched it when I had COVID, and I watched it when I had COVID.
But isn't that
I love that movie?
Or that's a separate movie? And Ant-Man's just
that's Ant-Man Quantumania.
Oh, okay.
Also,
he accidentally releases Kang.
I keep mixing in Despicable Me 4 in my brain into this conversation because we also just saw that, and that also had a plot that was very thin.
But so now they're getting rid of Kang and they're replacing him with Doctor Doom.
With Doctor Doom.
Which
and
may
he's
be
the new like Thanos of the MCU.
Doctor Doom is the new big bad for the next 10 years.
That they would tap Robert Downey because they can't really take another risk. They need someone who...
That's what it looks like, Shai. Yeah, it's not because he's got great charisma. I think he's incredible, but there's a lot of people with great charisma.
I think it's that he's a bankable...
I think they bet on someone new like Jonathan Majors. They got screwed. They're not going to take a risk again.
I'm bummed that, I mean, by all means...
don't they do background checks on these people? Don't they have like files and like...
No, I mean...
private eyes or something?
You'd think they would have their own like agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
or their own like security clearance.
He was found guilty of 2 misdemeanor counts of harassment and assault. You're right. And the same day he was dropped by Marvel.
He
says he's heartbroken over Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom.
No, but he also said positive things about Robert Downey Jr. I read that.
He said very nice things.
He's heartbroken that he's thrown out.
That Doctor Doom is replacing Kang. He shouldn't have fucking assaulted someone. How about that?
Yeah. That's evident.
Right.
The one of my like side bummers on this is that I love Ant-Man Quantumania. It is definitely one of my favorite Marvel movies. Most people hate it.
Never seen it.
But now it's like really relegated to like not even important.
Right, because of the whole scandal.
Okay. So
and like listen, Robert Downey came a long way himself. He didn't start off with a sparkly, clean history.
No, I just think it's like a bit much to have him be the villain. I'd like to then just, in my mind, he's a Stark from another version that went wrong.
Janky Stark?
Yeah, or evil Stark. Because otherwise it's just too much. They need to diversify like more. It's weird.
Okay. Well, with all this being said, I buy this movie. I loved it.
The only reason I'd buy it is because I'd want to watch it again and just pause the whole time and like enjoy all the Easter eggs.
You want to watch it with me giving you commentary?
No, it's two separate sittings. One is like an educational.
I'm still upset you haven't watched Marvel Civil War, Captain America Civil War.
So good. How have you not seen that one?
Also, I
haven't seen
the preview for Captain America: Brave New World looked pretty awesome too.
What is that? That sounds like a fake trailer that somebody makes that I sent to Becky and I asked, are these real trailers?
Anthony Mackie is Captain America.
What? Oh my God. Why?
Didn't you watch Captain America and Winter Soldier, the TV show, Lily?
I'll only ever have one Cap. I only have one Cap.
I don't know how to tell you this.
You can call him Captain America, but he's not Captain
America. There's way too many things at this point. Like,
I closed the chapter.
Must have you're set for life with all this stuff. There's so much stuff for you to look at and do and talk about. That being
said, I have to say,
I'm so happy for you, but this is like too much stuff.
Rather than another sort of big Avengers scale movie, I would rather, here's my pitch to you, I would rather have the Midnight Suns. I believe the Midnight Suns are...
sounds like a cult.
No, the Midnight Suns is a small team that fights sort of like a cult, sort of like villains type of thing, and it's, I believe it's Ghost Rider, Blade, Wolverine, maybe.
Oh, Ari loves Ghost Rider, the Lego. He keeps asking me to watch the movie, but I'm like, I don't think so. But you can play with his skull motorcycle rider.
Who are Marvel's Midnight Suns characters?
If you don't even know, no one's paying for a movie. For this.
Who are the best characters? No, God damn it. Anyways,
McConaughey was Cowboy Deadpool. I didn't realize that.
Oh, that's funny. They give him, I don't know. Oh, here we go. All right.
Maybe it's just his voice.
The Midnight Suns are... Oh, this is kind of confusing.
Okay, we have to go before we get into that. All right. Okay. Land the plane.
All right. The plane has landed. That's it.
No, I want to say what I've been watching. I want to say I watched Despicable Me 4. I thought it was very funny slapstick.
It was very cute.
Couldn't tell you what it's about, but we laughed the whole way through.
Though. There's like a Jack type.
Very cute. It's very cute.
Jack baby.
Very sweet.
I'm watching a show recommended by Jeannie that is awesome called Sanctuary on Netflix, which is a story about like sumo wrestling culture. It's a fiction. Yeah. It's a like Kingdom, but about sumo wrestlers. Ooh, it's really cool.
So cool.
Watch that after I have my last ep of The Boys.
And it's in Japanese and it's fantastic.
All right.
Every episode of The Boys is more gross than the last.
I haven't been able to finish it because of that. The dungeon
episode is disgusting.
It's the dungeon episode
is the grossest thing ever.
Go down in history is one of the grossest things, but also one of the best episodes I've ever seen. It
was a great episode, but it was really upsetting.
And the 7, because there's 8 episodes, 7, which is like that weird Christmas special thing that they're making, that also is a great episode. Nice. The second half of this season is way better than the first. I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
All right,
guys. Love you. See you soon.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Friday Night Movie, the sibling rivalry and pop culture podcast. Join the Friday Night Movie family by following @FryNightMovie on all of the socials and visiting our website, FryNightMovie.com. Our theme song is by What Does It Eat? And make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.